So, good day, y'all. Happy Independence Day, and I hope I don't waste your evening of this wonderful holiday on boring Python. So, today we are going to have some very exciting Python, in fact. So, like last week's lectures were kind of all over the place. They talked about lists and a couple of many other concepts like crowd computing and things like that. And I feel like to embrace everything that was taught in the last week, we need to look at two main concepts. And that's not tuples as arrays, we'll come to this later, but it's arrays and functions. Essentially, when you have a lot of data, a lot of variables, you need ways. I'm sorry, in Python this is called list. I got confused, sorry. Anyways, so in most programming languages there are always in most programming languages there are always ways to have a list of data. For example, you can have a is equal to 1, a is equal to 2, a is equal to 3, but now that's just one variable. I'm only having one of them at a time. Sure, I can do a comma b comma c is equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3, but this means that a, b and c are not related to each other. I'm having three different variables signifying three different things. But say I have a class of students. Oh, I do. Sorry. So I have a class of students and their marks. Now the class of students and their marks are definitely related. There's student number 1 with March 17, student number 2 with March 18, and so on. These are, so I should basically have what's that thing called? Yeah, marks of students is equal to, and write the marks. So one student is 18, one student is 8, 9, 20, one student got full, a couple of students got full, and so on. So this clearly indicates that there are multiple students in the class, and I know the students of know the marks of the students of the class. Like it's stored in a single variable, right? So, and this is something pervasive to every language. We need ways to have a data, something which can show multiple values. In fact, many of the programming concepts use things like this in the future. Eventually, you'll come across something called classes, which is a more specific, which is a parallel concept to this. On top of that, the other thing which is equally important to programming is something called functions. In essentially, programming is to simplify concepts, to avoid repetition, to do things in a smarter way. Like, I don't want to write x is equal to x plus 1 multiple times. Oh, I don't have not defined x is equal to 4. Like, I can copy paste it, but what if this number is supposed to change? What if it's not as easy as just copy pasting? So whenever you have repetition, the concept called functions are incredibly important. So this class will focus a little bit on lists, and then we'll go to functions, and then we'll combine the both, because why not? So one very quick warm-up question. Let's just say, I believe you have done this in class. So if I do marks of students of 1, what will be printed? Yes, that is correct, because Python, like most nice languages, is zero indiced. That is, the first value of the array is denoted by 0. So if I put 0 here, it would take us to 17 because that's the first value, and then 18 is the next, and so on. Now, the last class I talked a little about tuples. Tuples are in a way similar to lists, in the sense they store multiple values. Like if I could have name of students is equal to, I'll have my name first. Apparently I'm a student. Actually I am. We'll have couple of random names from the chat. Diksha. Okay, I'll give a quick explanation of a tuple. Okay, I will explain the differences between arrays and tuples, and that will kind of clarify your question actually. Like tuples. Okay, so the main difference between tuples and a list are that a list we have square brackets, and tuples we have parentheses. That's literally it. That's the major difference, and the way this works is it's treated completely different from Python treats these completely differently, and we have to look at it why. Look at why that's the case, and I'll tell you that in a while. We'll have Kamal. We'll also have Manish. So if I print name of student, if I run this, I'll get the same thing. Now notice here it properly tells you the type is a list. Mark of students is a list with 4 elements. Name of students is a tuple of 4 elements. The biggest difference you can see right now is that there are square brackets and parentheses here. When I talk about functions, the differences between tuples and lists will become more evident. But tuples, okay, we'll do a quick thing first. What if I had made a mistake and marks of students, this first student's marks, okay, second student's marks, Diksha's marks is actually full? How would I change it? I'll do it like this. Marks of students 1 is equal to 20. And so if I print this now, oh, I should switch to okay. So right now if you look at it, marks of students is 17, 28, 20 and 20. I was able to change the value of Diksha's marks. Okay, sir, I'll answer that question a little after this. Just remind me, okay? However, the fundamental difference between tuples and lists is that tuples cannot be changed. So I can take name of students. If I do name of students 1 is equal to, okay, say I misspelled my name and my name is actually Naveen. Now what's going to happen is an error. The difference between tuples and arrays are that in case I confuse list and array, that's mainly because most of the languages call this concept an array. It's spelled A-R-A-Y. Most other languages call the concept of list as arrays. And forgive me if I accidentally say array instead of list. Okay? Okay, anyways. So the fundamental difference between a list and a tuple is that tuples cannot be changed. Tuples are called immutable. Immutable. That is, once a tuple is made, you cannot change the elements of the tuple. But you can do whatever you want with the elements of the list. So that's the major difference. So let's just look at some very simple questions first. So I have this. I'll first save this. Then so we'll just quickly see this. So here I have a tuple. Okay, what do you think the output of this program is? I should have done this into. Yeah, so Karthik Keshwar is right. To access elements of a list, you put a list or a tuple, you put the name of the variable followed by square brackets and the list number you want. Python gives you a very convenient way of accessing the last values, second last values and so on by putting negative numbers. So if I put a of -1, it goes back. So essentially you go and get -2. So okay, let me look at Gautam's question. Okay, can you get a list as an input from a user instead of not really. We have to do a little bit of work to get the input as a list directly. It'll take a little bit of while, and I feel like it's better to do that after I explain about functions also. Okay, so yeah, and if wait, give me a second. Okay, and yeah, the next few examples I had written is basically that lists can be changed, but tuples cannot. Okay, we don't need to see this. Okay, anyways, but both tuples and lists are quite similar in the sense that they essentially have a bunch of values. These are called as iterables. An iterable is essentially something that can be iterated over. So the best example. Someone was speaking. Okay, anyways, a best example, like there are several iterables in Python. You can even generate your own iterable, but the easiest way to see what an iterable does is to look at what does an iterable mean? It means it can be iterated over, right? And what's the one thing in Python for iteration? Loops, the for loops specifically. So I can do for element in, give me a second, just control save. Okay, b is equal to, and then I do for element in b, print b. Sorry. So what does this do? This will iterate over the things in B, and it will be stored in element, and then it will print the element. Okay, so if I run this, I will print 1, 4, 6, 8, 9, 6, 8, 10 because those are the elements of B. I am iterating over the elements of B. Likewise, if I had made this a tuple instead, I'll get the same result because I am essentially just iterating over something. There are many more iterators. For example, range is an iterator. I mean, range can is equal to range. Essentially, this generates another iterable. So there are like several kinds of iterable, like lists, tuples, and ranges. a very common iterables that you will notice. Iterables are anything that can be iterated over. Okay, so we'll just quickly try to do a small function. It's not function, a small. So say I have a list of values. I will add 12. I want to write something that, okay, so dictionaries and sets are iterables, but I'll consider them much later because they're kind of special and I don't want to confuse. Kesha, that's a good question, but that's just my point. Like, there are several iterables. In fact, I'm going to say one more iterable after this, which is so obviously an iterable that once you notice it, you'll be like, oh, I should have seen this coming. Anyways, so before that, we'll just quickly write a small, I want you guys to write a small script. So I want to check if 5 is inside this list. So how would you do this with the for loop? So essentially, if 5 is inside the list, I print I found the number 5. So how would you do this? Kesha, you have already taken Python, haven't you? You're asking, that is correct, but okay, so no, let's say we have to use a for loop. Subhashini, that could have been right, but that won't work because B is an array and 5 is a number. An array is not a number. So if you check if they're equal, it won't be correct. So if I do 1, 3, 4 is equal to 5, okay, oh wait, it'll still give false. 2 is inside this, but it's still not correct, right? The thing is, you have to, here I'm, okay, when you see the answer, you'll kind of make sense what I was implying. Yeah, that's correct, Gautam. So I have to check if element is equal to 5 and then I can print. So if I run this, I'll talk about the flag later. Give me a second. Yeah. So Harmanpreet's answer is right. I'm just adding one small thing to a flag. I did not find the number. So if I run this, right now it's looking through these values of B and it goes, it's looking for the number of 5 inside. Like essentially here we are iterating over, the elements of B. The elements of B are 1, 4, 6, 8 and 12. If element, so as element takes these values, it checks one by one if it's equal to 5, and if it is equal to 5, it prints a number, prints it as found it. Now I've added this flag variable. This concept of a flag variable will be used a little now and then. Okay, so a flag here. So what if I don't find number of 5? Okay, if I don't find the number 5 at all, this program will not print anything. I forgot it. So right now, if I ignore all the flag stuff, right now this function will not print anything. This program will not print anything, because this program only prints something if I find the number 5. I cannot do this also. If I put else here, else print. If I do this, what will happen is it will keep saying I did not print the number, and if I did find the number, it will say I did not find the number, and then at that element it will be like, yes, I found the number. So this is not what we want. We wanted to say I did not find the number if I don't find it anywhere inside the list, and otherwise I should say I found the number. So the easiest way to do it is to have a flag. So a flag is just something to say that, yeah, I'm having an extra variable for a specific concept. Okay, so I start with flag is true. Now if I find the element 5, then I'll set flag to be false. Yeah, Karthik, we can use break, but that also won't help. So if I'll answer that in a while. Okay, so essentially flag is a variable which I'm using to store if I'm finding the number 5 in the list or not. So if I find the number 5, then I don't care, I don't have to print this. But if I don't find the number 5, flag will still be true, and therefore I should print this. So the idea of the flag is quite simple. It's just a very quick way we can like check if something is here. But this is so painful. Okay, so anyways. And okay, so say we use break instead. So instead of doing this, did someone have a question? Oh, yeah, I just heard a bit of noise. Okay. So if you learn a little more, there's something called a break, which essentially stops a for loop and things like that. So if I run this, first comment. So if I run this normally, it will go, even after I find number 5, it will continue going. There's still it'll keep going. If I put a break, then it will stop once this is true. I'll show an example of a break properly in a while, but a break is essentially just an early escape. So earlier it checked for 10 and 12 also, but this time it didn't check for 10 and 12. We can check it by printing element. Okay, so I put an extra. Okay, so if I remove the break, what happens is, okay, the number I am checking is, okay, the number is I'm checking first is 1, it checks if it's 5, it's not 5, and it just keeps doing this, right? So if I'm not putting a break, it will keep doing it even after I found 5 here. The program will run. Wait, I didn't get your question. Like, essentially, the flag. Okay, wait. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll take a step back. Okay. Who is this making this noise? Okay. Anyways, so let's ignore the flag completely. Okay, and when you run, what happens is it checks everything. So it first goes, let's go through the loop one by one. So the first value of the element is 1. It prints I'm checking 1, and it finds it's not 1. So it will print I did not find the number, and it'll keep doing this until I find 5. If I find 5, it will say I found the number 5, and then it will continue. It will say, okay, it checks number 10 and says, no, I did not find number 5, right? Now, isn't this wrong of the program? Because I am checking if 5 is in the tuple or not. 5 is in the list or not. I don't need to individually, I do not need to check, like right now 5 is in the tuple list. I shouldn't say I did not find the number, like ever. I should only say I found the number 5 and not I did not find number 5. Yeah, 4 is not the number 5, but that does not mean 5 is not in this list. Yeah, it will stop after 5, but it will still say I did not find the number 5, right? Now, if I put a break after this, what break does, it will, like once this happens, it will escape the loop. So now if I run this, yeah, I did. After this, after I reach the number 5, it will skip 11 and 10 and 11. But that does not mean that I still printed I did not find the number before that. Okay, if you're going to be misbehaving like this, I will just mute everyone and none of you will be able to speak. Okay. Anyway, so like because the noise is coming very for intermittent times, I'm not able to check who's making that sound also. Okay, doesn't matter. So what flag is doing is so that I don't print this every time. I don't want to print this for the first value. I only want to print this after I check the entire list. Like if number 5 is not there in the entire list, then I print I did not find the number. Okay, so the way I like doing that is by introducing a flag. If you want, you can think of another method and you can type it here if you want. Like this is not the only way to do it. You can do other ways for to do it, but so I'll just remove this else because that's not really needed. So now it will, I don't need to print this also. Yeah, So right now, it just does it quickly. If it finds a number 5, it says I found number 5. If it doesn't find number 5, it says that. So if you want to try a better way instead of using a flag, you should try. Like in the end,
Hello, sir.
yeah,
Hello. So I have a question.
yeah, please ask.
So in the printf,
Which print? This one.
hello.
Oh, this one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Next printf.
This one.
I found the number 5.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes. Is there a question? Or are you telling me the answer?
If flag printf, I did not find the. So this printf, I not understand.
This, uh, this one, the print f, print the number I'm checking, so and so.
Yes, sir. Flag equal to
Okay.
false and
Okay.
printf.
Okay. I'll talk about the flag again. So essentially, what I'm doing with the flag is, okay. So first things first, there is no best way to program. Like there's always better ways and less better ways. This is the one way which I kind of like because I am comfortable with the idea of a flag variable. If you are not comfortable with a flag variable, you can try something on your own, and if it produces the correct output, it's fine. There's more than one ways of doing this. In fact, the better way is, Kesha did tell what the better way is earlier, and we'll come to that eventually. Okay. So if in other languages where okay, never mind. So think of, okay, instead of calling it flag, I'll rename this. Oh, Spider does not let you rename. Lovely. So I'll rename this to is phi in the list yet. Is phi not in the list yet. So essentially, in the beginning of the list, phi is not yet in the list, right? And then I one by one check the elements of the list and I check whether it's phi or not. The moment I reach phi, that means I know that phi is in the list. So I hope this naming convention made more sense. Instead of calling it flag, I'm explaining. The idea of the variable is to check if 5 is not in the list. Bro. Okay, I'm sorry. All of you will have to ask questions via chat now. Okay. I hope that clarified your doubt. Otherwise, I mean, there are things in programming which only make sense after you properly coded it again. So, I have a doubt. Okay. Okay, I have a doubt. Sometimes more than one option is correct. Oh, the questions regarding the assignments and tutorial. So I'll talk about the questions about assignments and tutorial later because I'm not in charge of the markings and things like that. Manoj, I could, but there's one person making weird noises. I'll enable it shortly. Okay. So Muskan, I'm not in charge of. So you can tell me which question you had you are marked incorrectly, and I can check if they are answers. Yeah, I've enabled mic again. So if you want to ask questions, you can. And Samarth, you had a question? Hey, you can ask. wait. Before all that, if you're not happy with the thing, don't worry. This will be inside the link I've shared in the. Where did it go?
Hello,
Like
sir. Where is the? Hello,
this
sir.
will
Where is
be
the
in.
you?
Give me a second. So this will. Where did my thing go?
Hello, sir.
Yeah. So I have made a GitHub link, and eventually, I mean, this week's concepts, week 3 questions will be uploaded. So you can go through and look at the codes once I've uploaded it just today. Okay, I'll just add this specifically to the spider. Yeah, it's there in the same the same place as you get the video lectures. So once you go to the Swayam portal, in the bottom you see problem solving session, and you can click this to get this link. Yeah. Anyways, I'll just copy this and paste this in the. This is paste it here. Okay, but finding if a letter of an element is inside the list or a tuple is very fundamental, right? So it's unreasonable for us to write so much code to just do this. So fortunately, Python makes this incredibly easy. So in Python, you can check if something is inside another iterable by using the in keyword. So I can just check if 5 in B, print yes there is 5, else there is no 5. So if you, yeah, so right now there is no 5 in B, there's no 5 in the tuple B, and therefore it prints there's no 5. And if I put a 5 somewhere in, it will still there is a 5. Manoj, you're not clear when you're asking the questions, I guess. Like, could you get a better mic? Or
Sir, net problem.
oh,
My side, sir, net problem.
okay. I'm sorry to hear that. It would be easier if you type out the questions, if I'm honest.
I am writing my questions
Okay,
because
okay.
my net.
Oh, because of that's okay. So okay, but now that the net problem is not that big of an issue, you can quickly ask the question. Okay, anyway, okay. Can I ask the questions about the like it depends on which assignment you're asking the question, because technically speaking, I'm only allowed to answer questions about assignments you have already completed. Like, I mean, not just completed, gotten marks for. And I'm not really sure where to check that. Give me a second. Did I? Oh, yeah. So, oops. Anyway, so I can answer week 1. I'm not sure if I can answer week 2. Can I ask week 3 assignment questions? I'm not even sure if I attempted week 3. Just move this in place and okay, so week 3 has not been marked yet, and because of that, I don't think I'm allowed to, like, if you have a question regarding syntax and things like that, I can try to answer, but I why did I do this? Oh, okay, never mind. Anyways, bro, okay, never mind. Okay, let's go look at question 3. Yeah, I mean, okay, so Yeah, because it's incorrect, because we are not saying what the value of b is. So as I'm saying if I just write this c is equal to b cube, I've not found the value of b before that. I've not written that b is equal to 7 or something. Unless I've specified the value of b, it will give an error. So I believe we just overthought it. We thought there'll be a b defined just before this, but that's not the case for this question. Oh, I completely forgot about this. Okay, anyways. Yeah, so this is an error, because if you run this in Python, it is an error because I've not defined it. If I run this, it's an error. Oh, okay. Could you please ask them again? Because I am not in charge of answering these questions. I mean, sorry, I'm not in charge of marking these questions. So if they have told you that assume B is declared, then they are incorrect to cut marks for it. So you should raise that up in the discussion forum. I also agree that you should ask them, you should bring this up in the discussion forum. Like, okay. I will look into the discussion forum and tell you about it next week. Okay. Samarth, what was your question? Oh yeah, it was about one of the assignments. Okay. And Manoj's question is like, so okay, the term Scratch, as Keshav said, Scratch is a small programming language for very small things like making small games and things like that. But because it is a proper programming language and it's quite intuitive, you can learn most of the programming concepts on it. Like it, we will call that a visual programming language. I'm sorry, I cannot speak Hindi. I do not know Hindi. Okay, so give me a second about Randin. Okay. Okay, I will talk about Randint, but I was planning to talk about functions first. I'm planning to talk about functions first and then talk to Randint and Randrange. Okay. Okay, so but before that, I'll just complete the small two things about what's that thing called of iterables. Okay. So this in keyword is quite more powerful than you think. So like for example, I can do 3 in range 7, and logically 7 is a range from 0 to 6, so obviously 3 is there. If I put 3 in and use the last week's syntax, so it starts from 1, goes till 9 with a step of 2. This is false because 4 is not in this range. This range, if I have to look at the values of this range, list range 1, 9, 2, close. This range has the values 1, 3, 5 and 7. 4 is not there. So in essentially checks if something is inside an iterable or not. Okay, now for the surprise iterable, one iterable which is so obvious that it was staring at us in all times. strings are iterables. So if I take a string, say C is equal to hello there, I can do O in C and it's true. I can say C is equal to hello there. I can do for character in C, print C, print character, and it will print the letters of the string one by one, because naturally, obviously, a string is just list of values, it's just list of letters. So this concept of iterables are incredibly powerful, because many things, most of the things we deal with are iterables. And so that is the main few things I was going to talk about iterables. So we can also check like hello there and be true. So you can easily check if substrings are there and things like that. So that will cover a large chunk about iterables and iterables. We'll look at this again at the end of the class. Yes, Manoj? Once you had a question, you raised your hand. Okay, I'll then move to about functions. So I don't, if I remember correctly, in the SWAYAM portal, with the class about functions is not yet done, right? So this might be jumping the gun a little, but I feel like functions are quite important. Now, we can talk about functions first by looking at the mathematical way we look at functions. So for example, in maths we used to do f of x is equal to x squared plus 3x plus 2, and well, that's a function. So if I want to find f of minus 3, I'll have so this f of minus 3 is equal to minus 3 squared dot dot dot. So we'll have the solution will be 2, right? So essentially a function is anything which takes an input and gives you an output. Now a small difference between a Python function and a math function is that Python functions need not take an input. Like for example, the function input, if you look at it, I'm not giving any value inside and it's still running. Similarly, the print function does not need an input. Now, how do you define a function in Python? So okay, anyway, so the example which I was going to show was like, say I have a I have A has these values, and I have B which is empty, but I want to find the values of B are the values of A, but after this function. I want to find this and then put that inside the values of A. Inside the B.
हेलो सर, एलविस यादव जीत चुके हैं.
Okay, anyways, so him completely threw me off. Okay, anyway, as I'm back. So one way to find this is to have a temporary variable and find each of the variables. So x for the first value. Manoj, if you do something like that again, I'll just keep kicking you off.
So it is not me, my brother is.
That's not an excuse.
Okay, sorry, sir.
Good. Anyways, so I had to do so much. I had to do so much work to if I want to just keep like okay, sorry. I have to find x square plus 4x plus 4, and I have to do that for every term of this. So if I do it this way, it's a lot of work, isn't it? So instead of doing that, we can define a function. A function will just, I give it this value and it will give. I'll give it this I'll give it this number and it should give me this thing out. And we do that in using function. Okay, he's blocked now. Anyways, so in Python we do that with functions. So we define functions using def. So def will call this function myQuadratic, and what's the input of myQuadratic? The input of myQuadratic is x, so we'll just put x. And what is the output of my quadratic? The output of my quadratic is this. So because I'm returning this, we'll just call it return x multiplied by x plus 4 multiplied by x plus 4, right? So now if we'll do a couple of unfortunately there's a little bit of math here. Some people don't like math, but it will come everywhere. So let's just do my quad of 4 6 if you run this, it'll just calculate this function for these values. We can first calculate it quickly in our heads. So my quad of 4 will be 4 multiplied by 4 plus 4 multiplied by 4 plus 4, which is, I hope you're not sarcastic. Okay, my quad of 4 will be just evaluate this here. So it will be 4 multiplied by 4 plus 4. So that's 16 plus 16 plus 4, which is 36. And likewise, we can calculate the other values. So if I print this, the first value should be 36. First value is 36. Yeah, first value is 36, next value is 64, and last value is 100. Essentially, we're just evaluating a function at different points. Now, the difference, I told you, the difference between Python and maths is that, well, for Python functions, we don't need to give inputs. So, for example, I can define def a constant number, I'm taking no inputs, and then I'm just returning this massive number. So whenever I want, this is not very useful, but you can do it. But one useful thing about this is that, say you're starting a function, say you what if you want to initialize every value at the initial, like say you are using a comma b comma c, so we'll just do return a comma 0 comma 0 0 comma 0 comma 0. Essentially here I'm returning a tuple of five zeros, and I'm storing it. A, B, C, comma D, comma E is equal to so I can do a lot of things with A, comma B. A is equal to C multiplied by D plus 415 and so on, and I'll just keep and like lots of random operations, and I want to reinitialize the values. I want to go back to the first values I was working with, so I can do this thing again. Like instead of writing all the values, we can just like instead of writing all the values again, instead of doing this, I can do a constant number. And the advantage of this is, now say I don't want to give initialize with these. I want to initialize with ds1. Then I can do that. Now, if I did it the other way, I would have to change 1 everywhere in all the places I'm initializing. So I'll have like, for example, in from my friend's code, there is a person walking, and essentially he wants that person to be walking at every intervals of 10. But if you're going to be to reinitialize the scene, to restart all the variables, it's easier to do this than to copy paste the values again and again and again. So sometimes you just want a function which takes no input but gives you a lot of outputs. Similarly, you can have a function which takes inputs and does not have any outputs. For example, def add 1, I'll take an input a, and then I'll just do a is equal to a plus 1. Note that this function is useless. I'm not doing anything fancy or anything. I can do things like print it, and this is relatively useful. Print single. So if I do print single 5, comment this. Yeah. So right now, if I put a number into print single, it will print 5. So this is a function which takes no input, which takes one input and has no outputs. So if I do, okay, I'm not doing that again. Now earlier I had said that the difference between a tuple and a array, right? Now essentially one difference is, the reason many people would have thought that what's the point of a tuple if arrays are just better, because we can't change the value of a tuple. There's no point in having a tuple if we can't change it, right? But having a tuple allows the Python interpreter to do lots of smart things. For example, the input of a function is actually a tuple. So the best example of this is if I take print 1, 2. This is essentially just a tuple of 1, 2, and that's what we get. But on the other hand, if I had that was not smart of me. On the other hand, if I'm making an array like this is fundamentally different. This tuple is the same as this, but this array is not the same as, this list is not the same as this. These are different. So that's just one of the things about what what functions are and how they work with tuples. So now the basic idea of functions are not too painful. So we'll just check one more thing. So we define my quad like this. Delete this. So what do you think the output of this is? Okay, so we'll work it out. Essentially, this is just like how you do it in maths. In maths, if you have f of something, you just first f of 2, you just check what f of 2 is first, and then f of 2 is a number, right? So in this case, f of 2 is in this case, Arya, do you have a question? Okay, in this the quadratic is x square plus 4. Arya, do you have a question? Can't hear you if you're saying anything. Okay, cool. So for so f of 2 is a number. So in this case, f of 2 is 2 multiplied by 2. Well, we can 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, and this gives us 4 plus 8 plus 4, which is 16, 20, 16. So f of 2 is 16. So we just have to calculate f of 16. So that's the way we normally do functions inside functions in maths, and that's exactly the same as how you do it here. So in here we have print my quadratic of minus 2. Okay, we'll first check what my quadratic of minus 2 is. My quadratic of minus 2 is 0. So if you my quadratic of 2. So we just found out that my quadratic of minus 2 is 0. So now we are asking, what's print of my quadratic of 0? My quadratic of 0 is, well, 4. So this program is supposed to print 4, and that's right. We can just keep changing this, chaining it and things like that, but that's beside the point. Okay, we'll now do a slightly tiresome question. So what do you think is the output of this function? I've defined a as 2. I define the function p of a, and I do these. Can someone write out what the output is? I hope you have not forgotten what f strings are. Aha. Keshav, you would have been right, but you have fallen into my traps once again. Okay, so I'll tell you why you're wrong in a while. Okay, let's see. So, the main point of a function, what? Yeah, I don't think I'm wrong. Okay, never mind. The main point of a function is that the variables inside this function do not change the things which are outside the function. So, even though I've written a is equal to 4, it won't change this a. This a is fundamentally different from this a. Okay? So, we'll go through this function step by step. Okay? Just to make sure we are on the same page. Debugger file. Should have put a debugger here first. Okay, so right now the value of a is 2. Okay? And it's going inside and it's trying to evaluate this. What is P of A? P of A is the output of this function P after I give the value A to it. The value I'm giving right now is 2. Note that I'm giving values and not variables. Okay, there's a small difference here and it might take some time to click. For numbers and essentially just numbers. And for numbers and booleans, you give values. So P of A is now P of 2. So I'm going inside, I'm printing the value of A. So if I go to the next line, step into. Yeah, it goes to A, it goes to P of A, goes inside, it prints the value of A. The value of A given is 2. Remember, we're calculating P of 2 now. Oh no. Give me a second. Jump in, next line. Next line. Okay, so it prints 2. Now I'm setting A as 4. What this does is in this, how do I explain it here?
Sir,
Yeah.
it's showing error if you print this.
It's showing what?
Error. Hello?
I ran this in
It's
the...
showing error.
Yeah, it prints 4,2. I can copy paste this and give it to you in the chat. So you can try running.
I'm trying, sir.
I copy pasted the code. So if you want, you can copy it from the chat. Okay, so I'll go through this one again. So where did it stop? Debug. Jump in. Next line. Okay, so right now the value of A. Now this value of A is only inside this function. This value of A is not the same as this variable. These two variables are different, and that's like one of the very useful things about functions, because it allows you to separate variables. Just because you're changing a variable here does not mean you're changing a variable outside. Okay, so when I'm changing this, what happens is, on the current line, yeah, now I've set A as 4, but this is I'll repeat again. Yeah, that's what I've done. I'll continue. So now it prints the value of A. The value of A is 4, so we'll do that. Prints the value of 4, and now I'm returning A. So what's going to be printed here is what's going to be returned here. What's returned here? 4. So it's returning from the function. It tells us, yeah, it's returning from the function. Which version of Python are you using? Yashavsi, 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 yeah. Which version of Python are you using? Because the thing I'm using right now is called an F string, and if I remember correct, forgot to give the inverted comma. Where's? Yeah, that's the issue. That's the he's right. Karthik's right. You forgot the double inverted commas at the end. I hope that clarifies. Okay. Okay. So now, yeah. So the point was, the value of A inside this is different from the value of A outside. You can see how this is very useful and very useful in functions. You don't want to run a function and accidentally rewrite half of the variables in your code, right? So that is a very powerful point of a function. One way that I can make this more clear is if I change the variables to more reasonable things. If I, right now, I'm not allowed to do print A here. This is because inside this function, there's no variable A. A is outside the function. If I give the value A here, it will be able to do this print A. So people who answered 4,4, I hope I was able to slightly give an insight to why the answer is not 4,4 but it's 4,2. Essentially, even though I'm setting A as 4, I'm not changing the value of the outside A, and therefore this A and this give me a second. Yeah, I'm back. So yeah, I hope that, yeah, that's the correct output. That is because earlier I'd put a print A, there are two print A's within the function P, and therefore the earlier 2 and 4's come. I hope it kind of clarified your it makes sense why it's 4,2. So if you just run this again, you close, did I not? Okay, I can run, and it's 4,2. Okay. So now let's just do some interesting questions. Okay. So before I do that, I will talk. So there are normal functions. There's also something called methods. So for example, if I have a string, then I can do certain things on the string. Like I can check if a number is inside, I can check if there are capital letters inside and things like that. And all of these are called like string methods or list methods. So if I have where did it go? Spider? Yeah. So say I have A is equal to 2, 3, 4. I can do A. To do certain operations on this A itself, I can write A and put a dot. The dot tells me there are things I can do on this A. Okay. So for example, I can append a number to A. If I do A dot append this, I can do what's that thing called? Yeah, print A, and what will happen is it gives 2, 3, 4, 4. So I had A as 2, 3, 4, and I have appended a value into it. So these are called function list method. This is called a list method, and there are string methods and other kinds of methods. Okay. So in general, if you want a quick look into what are the methods available, I highly recommend going into like just googling it. And I personally really like the site Programmis because it's the thing, it just looks nice, and it's also telling you exactly what kind of methods are there and what the methods do. So if I want to find the index of, yeah, here it says Python list index, it returns the index of the element in the list. So if I go to the list, if I can do a dot index, give me a second, I need to read the documentation. That's what I thought. Yeah, so I can do a dot index of 3 and it will give us 1. Oh wow. Did I not? Give me a second, I'm sorry. I meant to write index. Okay. So yeah, it works just as expected. So if I print a dot index 3, it will tell me what the index of 3 in A is. A is the list 2, 3, 4, 4, and naturally 3 is the index number 1. 2 will be the index number 0. So these are called list methods. Yeah, list methods. So let's try to write a program which does this, which takes a user input and checks if it's a number. This is a very easy thing. I just want to write this as a function so that we'll use this later. So how will this be? How would I write a function that return? Okay, so what's the input of this function? The input of this function is, well, nothing, because it's not taking anything from, it's not taking any variable, it's taking user from the input. It's taking input from the user. So let's do that. Def, sorry, I jumped. I was reading my next code and I made a mistake. The input of this function is there is an input to this function. Oh my god, I wrote this wrong. I'm quite sorry. We'll first take def check is number. Okay, I'll just write the entire thing. If it is not a number, then ask the user again. Else, if it is a number, then return the value. Okay. So we'll split this in multiple parts. So first thing, we have to get a number from the user. Not a number, we'll get an input from a user. We'll store it in user input is equal to input. Please input a number. We can later do the things for getting decimals also, but that's a different beast and I'm not planning to do that right away. Okay. So we need to now check if it's a positive number. A positive number will always be of the form like 1, 2, 3, or it'll just be digits, right? So we can use a string method. I mean, user input is a number. I mean, it's a string, right? Because that's what we remember. The output of this function gives you a string. You can also hover over the thing and it tells you this is a string. So we have string methods you can use. The string methods you can quickly go through is if you, there are several, and one of them is digit. Essentially, it checks if it's a digit or not. You can also take is decimal, but I prefer is digit, which is shorter to write. So let's just check what the output of is digit is. Print is digit, and we just, so let's just run this. Let's print, let's write number 4, and it says it's true because 4, well, is a digit. What if I run this again? I give a number 12. It's true because, well, 12 is made out of digits. What if I run the file again and I give words? That's false. So essentially, Python has a lot of like built-in functions that can help you do a lot of things you want. Okay, so we have checked if it's a positive number. If it is not a number, we must ask the user again. But if it is a number, we return this value. Is numeric also works. The reason I'm using is digit, I actually should be checking what the difference between is digit, is numeric and all, but I will do that later. Is digit works? Yeah, essentially the main is numeric takes negative values also, right? Is numeric and -1. Yeah, so I did not see that, I did not understand the difference earlier about is this and is numeric. I can check this later, but right now we'll just care for positive numbers. If you want, you can use is this in your code. Now, if it is a number, then I want to return the value. So I'll just do return user input. I'll return user input as a as a integer. But if it's not an integer, I need to ask the user again. So for that, should I just do this again? I'll just repeat this. That sounds like a lot of work, isn't it? Like just copy paste as many times as you want. So one way you can do this is with a loop. You can write a loop saying that, so the concept of flags as I used earlier can work again. I can set flag as true here. Flag is equal to true. And then I'll do while flag but if you don't want to use flag, we can use a slightly more fun thing. Actually, this can be even easier. I don't need the flag variable at all. I can just do this. Do you understand why this works? So instead of earlier, I'd use a flag variable because I need the flag variable within the function itself. But in this case, I don't care about the false case. It's either true or I have the number. So that is one way you could have done it. Another way you could have done it is using something you learn later called a recursive function. So if I don't get the correct value, I can do this. I can call this function from the function itself. I should actually write a return here. So what I'm doing right now is, it's a slightly more complicated topic, but you can wrap your head around it eventually. So what's happening here? Let's just run this. So I'll put number 12, and it's Wait, give me a sec. The number you have inputted is okay. So let's say I give the number 12. It will say the number of input is 12. But say I give the number 23. Okay, wait, that's also a number. Say I give the number, say I give QWERTY, which is not a number. It will ask me again. What's happening? Essentially, I go to get a number from user. It asks me the input. The user input in this case is queer. It checks if queer is a digit. Queer is not a digit. So it does not go inside and it does not return this value. Instead, it returns this value. What is this value? This value is calling this function again. So I'm calling this function. So I go inside this function and start to solve all over again. So this is like a very simple introduction to something called a recursive function. It's called a recursive function. Okay. Note, once again I'm telling you, this is not the only way to do it. You can do this in probably like 20 more ways, and I'm just specifying ways which are coming to me right now. Like some of you might prefer the while loop approach instead. While true, and this is equally valid. It will most of the time always work. Okay, now we have a way to definitely get a number from the user. So let's make a program that generates an array of integers. So how would you do this? One thing is, one hint I can give you is you don't have to use this function. So we are done with this part. So do I have any? Do you have any ideas how we can approach this? If I remember correct, one of you had this question right earlier. How we can make a array of store an array of values. After this question, I'll come back to Keshav's question earlier about, wait, where did it go? Yeah, the two-player playing a jumbled word game. Okay, so so we need to make an array of integers. So a list of integers. So we'll first have an empty list, and we do that. It's an empty list. And now we want to one by one store the elements of this empty list. So we need to get a user input, right? So one way would be to create a flag, but let's ignore that part now. Let's get the user input. User input is equal to input number to store in list, else input anything else. So if user input is numeric, then I store it inside the list, and to store a new value inside the list, we use the push operator. Append, sorry. We use the append operator. So we'll put append int of user input. Else we must stop doing this. So this looks like a while loop again. So let's do. So here we can do while true. I take the user input. Does this make sense? So now, well, let's try running this. Oh, we'll have an array with the values 2, 5, 7. So we'll just 2, 5, 7, and then I press Q, and it'll print the values 2, 5, 7. I hope this function makes sense. Sorry, it's not a function. This program makes sense. Like I had intended to make like 4 more questions about matrices and all, because what better way is to use both functions and lists other than matrices, but we'll do those questions if needed. Okay, anyways, so yes, sure, you had a question earlier, right, about the where did your question about the 2 players playing a jumbled word game. Oh, what was your question? Function and method are practically synonyms. They mean the same thing. It's just that, like, different programming languages tend to call them different things. If I remember correctly, Python calls them methods, but most other programming languages actually call them functions. So there's no difference between functions and methods. I personally call methods for like this is a list method, and then there are string methods in Python. So whenever a method is associated with a string or a list, I tend to call it a method, but that's not a formal definition. In the end, they are the same. Harik, I hope that answered your question. Okay, yeah. So giving the code here, can you copy paste and execute? Yeah, sure. Provided you don't ask me to like delete my OS, but yeah. Yeah, Python is powerful. You can delete people's OSs. So in case any of you had any question, like many of the things in programming, okay, import. That's only half the code, isn't it? Words, pick, and choice words, return pick. Jumble is equal to space or join, handle example words, then okay. Okay. If turn, okay. Are you using Spider to code? Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, so personally, the one thing is I'll change this to while true because while true makes more sense to me in my opinion. But I'm a very opinionated individual. Picked word is equal to choose word. Qn is equal to jumble of picked word. Okay. Print the question is Qn. Okay. If turn mod 2 is equal to 0. Oof. Print p1 name, your turn. Input, give you a number. If ans is equal to picked word, pp1. Okay, pp1 is the score of the player. So I would personally call it like p1 score and p2 score. Your score is p1 score. Else, better luck next time. Your word is picked word. C. Press 1 time and 0 to quit. Print if C is equal to 0. Thanks for playing. Okay, cool. Oh, if okay, print p2 name. I should change these. So p2 name and this picked word. This p2. Oh, that's because you're checking if it's 0 and not 0. Remember, the input or the input gives you a string. It does not give you a number. If you had put in int here, then you'd be correct.
Oh, yeah, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Hope that clarified. I went through. Okay. Uh,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I got. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so this is clarified, I guess. Okay, now we
Sir,
can
can
make.
you please execute once?
Oh no, I have to fix a few things. Give me a second. If c is equal to, I, I think I can just remove this. What's the error here? Oh yeah, P2, P1, P2. Okay, so one small suggestion, like there are things called Python formatters, and that's essentially because like some people, like you right now didn't put space around the equal to, right? It's fine, it's you don't have to put space around the words, except like it's standard practice to do it, okay? And there are a lot of standard practices, and it's a chore to remember all of them. So what they naturally did was they wrote a program to do all the standard practices for us, and that those are called auto formatters. So here you have for AutoPep 8 is one of the auto formatters. So I would highly recommend that if you're sharing code, to make it go through a formatter first, okay? Like I know you probably didn't know this before, but it's like yeah, that's the thing, okay? We'll just make sure it's fine. Choose word. Yeah, I think this is fine. Please don't break. Enter your name. I'll put my name, Naveen, and I'll put your name because you asked the question, Naveen. Your oh, that's programming. Because I'm lazy, I'll just copy paste this. Just focus on. We'll press 1 to continue. Water. Okay. And if you press anything else, it will stop working. So if you press 0, it gives the of course we have to do it here also. Okay. 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 So I hope that okay, one challenge you can have is how do you do this for, say you want like 5 players. How would you change this code to allow for 5 players or more players, in fact? Like, can you make the number of players what's the thing called? Number of players. Yeah, can you make the number of players a variable? So that'll be one way you can improve on this code. And when you do that, it will help you rewrite this code in a better way, because you saw now notice one thing, right? Like one place was many of the code is repeated, like this part. Oh my god, here that's the same thing as this. All of these are the same. These two parts are exactly the same, right? So we can kind of make this code slightly better. So I'll just leave it to you to think about how to make this better. You can come back next week and try your hand at it. Okay. So there's that. Okay. So now we'll go back to, yes, you can use a function. That's a really valid way to do it. But is there another way? I mean, that's the thing. There are many ways you can solve this. I'm not going to force you to use the method I'm thinking in my head. There are multiple ways, and whatever ways you can think of, as long as you can code it, it's cool. If you have any, if you're coming across any issues while coding, you can ask again, but it's up to you. So I guess we'll move on now. We'll go to another question. But yeah. Karthik, okay, you can ask the question. Karthik, I'll answer. Okay, I'll answer Karthik's question first. Could you? What's your question, Karthik? Karthik, sure. file handling. Was that part of? Is that week 4? So I honestly have not checked week 4 content yet. I usually check it like just a week before the class. Okay. So okay, I wrote the content on F1 text and a code. Oh, it's week 3. Oops. Okay. Okay. F1 text. Okay, so look at that. Let me look at Karthik's question first. I wrote some content in a file for F1 text and a code, and I want the output to be like if I write a word to be searched, if it's present in the file or not. Okay, we can do that. So I will switch this. I'll open a file. No, I'll just. Okay, honestly, I'm just going to open VS Code. So we have worked enough with we have worked with Spider all of today, but I honestly prepare VS Code as a thing to write code in. So we'll just write a new file, Karthik question.py, and then we'll add a new text file, generic text.txt. Okay, in generic text.txt, I'm just going to copy paste what you have written. Give me a second. Okay. Wait, I tried, but only got the word for. Okay, so to be honest, I need to look at your code to understand why you made that mistake. So could you share your code right now? Like it honestly depends on how you've coded. Okay, okay, fine. Okay, meanwhile, I'll look at Keshav's question. Hey, isn't this a question in the assignment? Oh, it's not. Okay, okay, okay. Sorry. It looks strangely like it. Okay, never mind. Okay. Define magic. And okay, well, the best way to go through a function, to best way to understand a function is, okay, I do not know what the best way is. With practice, we can do what I'm doing, but I'm not sure. Okay. Okay, for I in range magic for I in range n, L is equal to open, J in range n, L dot append 0, magic square dot append L. I honestly have no idea what this function is expected to do. Like, evidently, like if you're just like the magic square value really doesn't matter. Okay, like the output is very obvious because it's like written in a very complicated way. We'll ignore a lot of things. This is not a magic square question at all. In fact, we'll just make it a matrix question. Matrix is equal to so and so. Control C, Control V, Control V. And in fact, we'll ignore matrix later actually. So L is initially a empty list, and for every value of j, I keep adding one more value of, I'll keep adding 0 to the list. So when j is 0, L becomes this. The next value L will become this, and then it will become, oh my god, this, right? And in my case it will also become 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 4 times. And for each of those values, I'm putting a value, putting L inside the matrix. Okay, so for this, there's one small thing which makes it incredibly confusing for most people actually. The main thing is, this I'll show. So if say I have a is equal to 1, 2, 3, 5, and I'm having b is equal to a, and now I'm doing b of 1 is equal to 5. What is the output of this? So, surprisingly, the output of this is 1535. I did not make a change to A. I changed B, but the value of A changed. This is because if I say B is equal to A, I am not, because A is a complicated data type. A is not a simple thing like a number or a boolean. A is something slightly more complicated. It's a list, right? And so Python will be like, I don't want to copy an entire list and give it to B. Because copying is very tiring in Python actually. So if I do B is equal to A, instead of saying B, yeah, Diksha will come to that. Okay, instead of saying B is equal to A is not the same thing as B is equal to 1, 2, 3, 5. Because B is equal to A means that both B and A have this value. And if I change either B or A, I am changing this value. So I can do A is equal, A of 3 is equal to 43, and it will change both A and B because they are the same. Oh god. Oh yeah, okay. That, I didn't, okay, this makes sense, I'm changing both A and B. A and B are looking at this array. I think Sir will properly explain why this is the case, because to be honest, I didn't anticipate having to answer this. Like, I did not learn Python first. I learned a language called C++ first, and when you do it from a point of view of C++, it makes sense. I have to look into how to explain this from Python's point of view. So next week I can tell you about that. Is that fine?
Okay, sir.
Okay. So the main reason your code does what the weird things is because of this. So if I'm doing L dot append 0, I'm increasing the length of L. Now if I do magic square dot append L, magic square now has a the list of L. Now when I do magic square dot append L again, now magic square has two lists of L and just keeps going on and on. So if I change any of those lists, it will affect the entire thing. It's not intuitive, I'll be honest. This is not obvious, so it will take some time to get used to it. I will quickly look at Karthik's question. Okay, that's a dictionaries for word and words, word and file, and most of Karthik, you still there, right? Oh, it's a continuation. Okay, sorry. Okay. Okay, so I have some questions. Why have you done this? Wait, I'll actually put this in. So why have you done this? Like in okay, before any of you ask, like I essentially use VS Code to code in many languages, and some languages I need to write minus then an I need to write this minus then this thing, and that is supposed to look like an arrow. So I've enabled a font which automatically converts it to an arrow and things like that. So because of that, my double equal to's will be wider and things like that. Okay, so if you have any questions why it looks like this, that's why it is. So Karthik, why have you done this? Here, this is basically you're checking if most stock is oh yeah, it's equal to 0. Okay, fine. Okay, but we didn't put if. You're just checking and you're not doing anything with the check. Okay, we'll just figure most. F1.txt. Oh, give me a second. So actually, the class is supposed to be over now. I will keep the recording going because I've started all this question already. So if you want to leave, you may leave. Okay. So have a nice day. Have a great Independence Day ahead. I will meanwhile be looking at Karthik's question. Yeah. Versatile check dot split. Python. So I check. Why did I check your of word and words? If word. Yeah, I think you can see what I'm doing, right? Yeah, it's the same thing as what you have done. I don't.
Bro, time over.
I know the time is over. You can leave if you want.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, let's see. I have to make the file. Give me a second. I'll just copy your thing. Control C. Change Python files. CD. I don't need. I don't care about that. So for why are you doing for word and words? Shouldn't you? You're not checking file. If word in file, okay. Okay, so this is the issue. I found it. That's not necessary actually, because this check is completely different from anything inside the function. Like words of Python will, the value of check is Python. Whatever variable you define outside will not affect the things you're doing here. Okay. Now, so I don't think this is not. I don't need. This is changing. This is not necessary. Okay. So now we have done if word in file. That means you're checking if Python is in f.read. If Python is in f.read, you okay, wait, could you tell me why you have done this? If you can unmute yourself and speak actually. That's not how you initialize most talk. This is double equal to. Your code has double equal to there. If you put double equal to, that means you're comparing two values. Second, if you want to initialize as most talk as empty, then you should just do this. This is correct. This is saying that most talk is an empty dictionary. Okay. This is checking if most talk is similar to 0. Oh, it's obvious. Okay. That's because you're not incrementing this, right? If the word is in file, look here, you're doing for word in words. you're not doing for word in file. This words is the input words. Like let's ignore this. Let's just say we don't need this, and we can replace all the words with word. I don't need this. Print. I don't need this. Oh, that's the only place. Okay. I made a couple of mistakes. Give me a second. Okay. So this check.split does not split the file. Check.split checks this word, splits this word. So in this case, it does nothing to split. It will give the same thing again. Okay. So for word in words, here you're checking. So if I we'll go this, we'll comment this. We can comment this also. So now we'll just check it what words has. Print words. Okay, now if I run the code, it's I'll just so if I do check.split, yeah, there's a few mistake with that part. I'm not sure what the logic was behind before, but I hope that clarified. Like words is to splitting Python and not something else. So if I do Python cat, I run this, okay, why did this happen? It gives Python comma cat. Because that's what split does. Split will take the word and split it wherever there are spaces. So the words, yeah, I hope that clarified. I didn't look at the rest of the code, but do you want me to look at the rest of the code? Okay, we'll look at the rest of the code. So right now, let's ignore this case. We will just have one word. So we don't need to do this. We don't need this, right? And we don't need this also. So we'll keep this at the end. Control X, Control B. Okay. So this is correct. We generate it as f. File is equal to file.read. Oh, I must. Okay. So now, just to make sure we're on the same page, we'll just print file. Okay, just to see what's happening. I didn't save. Okay, I saved. So when you print file,
இருந்த phone number, photo, video எல்லாம் delete ஆகி.
Okay, so when you print file, well, naturally you print every word in the file, right? Now you want to find, I was talking about the value, right? Here file is again an iterator. So let's look at the so if I do for line in file, let's print, let's do it. Let print line, and then I'll make an f string line is line /n/n. Okay. Okay. So if you do for line in file, it does not split line wise. It splits letter wise, because file is a string here. So we can only do for Karen strings. That's the wrong thing. You should not use f.read. You should use f.readLine. for line. Is it like this? Oh, it's read lines. Okay. Ah, there you go. So it's read lines because obviously it's read lines. So if you do for line in file and then print f line is line slash n slash n slash n slash n. And if I run this, yeah. So now we'll get line by line. Okay. So the first line is hello world, second line is welcome to programming, and so on, right? So we should have used read lines instead. Read lines gives you that thing. Now with this, you want to split this into words. To split that, we can use this. This is where we'll use the split. So we'll do word split is equal to line dot split. So what does word split will have? Word split will have a list of strings. We can check the list of strings also. So the words in the line are word split, and the size is len word split. I'll put this. Now if I run this, so it tells you the words in the words are welcome to the world of programming. Can you take it from here? Did this make sense? Okay, I hope you can take it from here, right? Okay, cool. So that concludes today's class, and I will end the recording now.